All right, so let's begin. Take a moment to find a place on the floor where you can stand. And imagine that you have a door in front of you. And if you do have a door in front of you, lucky you, you can use it. But since we don't have so many doors in the classroom today, some of you will use your imagination. So think of the action of reaching for this door to open it. And then go ahead and rehearse that action. So you reach forward and open the door. And observe, how do you do it? Do it a couple times. Observe what happens with your spine. What do you do with your head, your hips, your feet? In other words, is it a movement of your arm? And I've said this before, but I'm going to ask you again, where does your arm begin? What is your arm? There's no arm. So this is an action of you, but maybe not all of you is part of this action. So observe that. For some of you where the movement is taking place more or less at the top of your torso. And do it on the other side. And see if this other side is a little wiser, a little more intelligent. And then just notice, is the door you're opening 200 pounds? Do you need that much force? Okay, so now reset for a moment, take a little break. And imagine now that the door is a little bit higher. So it's not really a door that you will walk through, but maybe a cabinet door in the kitchen. So it's at level of your, this cabinet particularly is at the level of your shoulder. So right in front of your chest. And see how that changes things. So you had a beautifully organized movement to lift the 200-pound door. Now this is definitely a lighter door. Does that mean that suddenly the movement is just happening in your shoulder blade? So now observe especially what do your feet do as you open this door, and do it on both sides. Left arm and right side, right arm. And then sense your breathing as you move. Your eyes, your face, your jaw. And then leave it whenever you're happy with your observation. Leave this and lie on your mats. So you find a place on the floor where you can comfortably spread out. Remove your belts, jewelry, glasses, nagging thoughts. Remove the worries, the pains, the attention to the external, unless it's the floor. So the floor will give you external information about the contact of your body, your 5 lines. In other words, your legs, your arms, your spine. And pay attention now to the length of the inhalation and the exhalation, and where do they take place? Where does the air coming in and out moves you? And how long is it? So as you settle into the ground and let the floor support you, pay closer and closer attention to the movement of the breath. And let it be so that it moves your lower abdomen. And if you need to put your hands there for memory of where the lower abdomen is, you can do that. It's that space between your belly button and your pubic bone. So about 3 fingers under the belly button. It's a place that some practitioners call dantian, where you store vital energy. So let that place move up and down. So if your hands are there, they're going to rise when you inhale and sink as you exhale. And let your eyes sink, your jaw drop. There's really nothing else to do right now but to take a few deep breaths into your lower abdomen. And of course, breath is not unidirectional, so as you're sensing your hands come up and down, the breath is, or let's say forward and back, forward towards the ceiling. Since we use directions as if you're standing, let me correct that and say forward towards the ceiling, back towards the floor, but also up towards your throat and down towards your pubic bone and the legs. And also maybe left and right towards your ribs. So the air is really expanding in all directions. The oxygen is traveling across your whole body, your organs, your musculature, oxygenating your whole self. So with the next breath, sink down even deeper into the floor, observe the contact, and see if something already changed just by you breathing a few minutes. Observe the power of the breath. And now pick up your right arm, and if it hurts, you can do the left arm, and just lift it a little bit away from the floor. So you pick up your right arm towards the ceiling, and the arm is long, but the elbow is not bent. So lift it all the way towards the ceiling and keep it there for a moment. Make sure your wrist is relaxed, so your hand can hang, and your elbow is not locked. But the arm is more or less perpendicular to the floor, so it's straight up towards the ceiling. And you just lift it away from the floor, meaning raise your shoulder blade, reach for the ceiling, the same way you just were reaching for a cabinet door. So lift your arm and see how is this movement. Do very little to begin with. And see what happened to your nice breath you just had a moment ago. So as you bring your arm up, you make sure that your breath remains uninterrupted. And put the arm down, rest for a moment. Bring your attention again to the breath. So this is going to be the constraint of today's lesson, that no matter what you do with your arm, your breath will remain uninterrupted. So your attention is in the breath. Whatever we do with the arm is secondary. Okay? Now lift the left arm up, straight up towards the ceiling. Don't lock the elbow, so there's a little bend at the elbow, a little bend at the wrist, so your hand is hanging more or less as if you were a marionette. You can imagine you have a little ribbon on your wrist and someone just picked your arm up, and your shoulder blade is flat right now, is resting, and then this imaginary ribbon pulls your arm up straight towards the ceiling without locking your elbow and puts it down gently. But your attention is on the breath. So you let the breath continue. You don't have to sync the breath to the arm. So it can take you 3 breaths to bring the arm up. It can take you 1 breath. But just you're sensing that the arm is differently organized. So on this side it might be moving a little differently than on the other side. And then you place the arm down and take another breath. Connect with your contact again, your 5 lines again. Take a rest. Maybe you can move the head a little. But again, everything you do today, even this slight movement of the head, is secondary. Your attention is all the way into your lower abdomen. And you're continuously aware of the rising, the length, the moment of exhalation. If there's a little pause there, maybe. Now, let's bring your left arm up again, and if you have pain or discomfort, you can reverse the directions and use your right arm. And bend both of your knees. Keep your feet shoulder width apart in a place where you can use them for support. And renew your attention to the breath. So you breathe in and out, and your arm is not locked at the elbow, but is straight up towards the ceiling. And your wrist is bent or not working. And now continue lifting this arm up a little. Imagine that you are reaching for something on the ceiling. And the ribs can move. And your shoulder blades are changing contact. So one of them is leaving the floor and the other one is coming closer to the floor. So you reach, or you imagine someone pulling your arm up towards the ceiling and then resting it down again. And then take a little rest and then do it again, maybe 3 or 4 times. And see if it makes any difference for you to have your knees bent. In other words, the moment that your feet are on the ground and you have the possibility of using them, see if something happens to your nervous system, an invitation to engage your feet in any way. So again, you're listening, you're following by listening. There's this distinction between following by listening and following by doing. So as you follow by listening, you can pick up a signal, pick up a little invitation from your organization, from your nervous system that says, oh, I have legs now. Can I use them in any way? So not because you're doing anything extra, but you're paying attention to what becomes available. And leave it, rest. Don't overdo it. Rest way before you're tired or bored or sore. And again, reconnect to your breath. So maybe by the next rest, I don't have to say it anymore, and you'll be always paying attention to the rest, to the breath. Not only during the rest, but also during the movement. So it's interesting, the moment you have a direction, the attention tends to go to the goal. But the goal today is the breath, not the movement of the arm or anything else. And you'll see why. So now bend just the left leg and place just the left foot wherever you can. Keep the leg up without too much contraction on your thigh, on your glute. And now engage with the floor so your pelvis tilts a little bit to the right. So find that position for your foot. Find the alignment of the thigh bone, the femur. So it's a skeletal connection. It's almost like the minimum effort that you need to make to tilt the pelvis to the right. So if at the beginning there's a lot of contraction, tonus, you can reduce that until there's the least amount of contraction, and you can take the pelvis to the right and continue breathing into your lower abdomen all along. And observe what hinders the breath. When do you stop paying attention to the breath? And instead of judging or feeling bad or say, oh darn it, I lost it, just realize that you're realizing that you've lost it. So embrace that awareness as a great thing and renew the attention wherever you want to bring it. Feldenkrais is very, very clear the difference between attention and awareness. And awareness is attention with knowledge. It's closer to consciousness. So now do it simpler, tiny, 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 simple move, not big, not effortful, and see that that allows you to keep more and more of your awareness on the breath. The smallest, the simplest. And then let the leg rest, make it long again. Sense your left side, compare it with the right. If you want to move your head, that's okay. But see what's changing in your contact, in the length of your lines, in the space between them. And see if you can notice again the length of your inhalation and your exhalation, if something is getting deeper, longer. And if the space between your teeth can also be a little bigger. So there's some room between your lips where the air can come out as you exhale. Not that you have to, but if you want to, you can. As another way to breathe. Now, think of this movement for a moment in your mind. Imagine yourself as a marionette and you're lying on the ground and you have a ribbon on your wrist. And there's a puppeteer up there in the ceiling and it's gently pulling and lifting this arm. So you are moved without the effort. It's not your musculature engaging, it's just the skeleton, just the bones. So now bend the bones of your left leg and stand your left foot and lift the bones of your left arm towards the ceiling, just as if a puppeteer would gently prepare you for movement. And make sure your elbow is not locked. Yeah, so it's just a little bit of room there. And keep the arm long without locking towards the ceiling. So the same position you were just now. And now let the arm come up away from the floor, long as it is. And see if you can, at some point, connect this movement of the arm to the movement of your pelvis. And again, the movement is completely secondary. What you're looking for is that the breath remains free. So your main intention is to continue breathing into the lower abdomen, creating space for the breath. And then you're lifting the arm away from the floor and engaging the pelvis almost as a secondary idea. And you watch the timing. You're lifting the arm and placing it again, long as it is, back onto the floor. So your shoulder blade is coming away and resting down. And see the role of your pelvis in this movement. See if it makes any difference. If you're looking for simplicity, for less effort, for more fluid, free breath, to use your pelvis than not to. And see, by the way, what does your head do, your eyes? You just watch. And leave it when you're done exploring. No need to burn yourself with this or get tired anywhere. It's a conversation between moving and resting, input and integration, information and processing. And the current all along the thread, the common thread through movement and resting is your breath. And by the way, see that as you rest with your legs long, your arm long, arms long, your breath gets a little deeper, a little longer. So as you remain attentive to the breath, maybe sensing now more of your ribs expanding, the lower ribs, the floating ribs, more contact with the floor on your back as you breathe. Pick up together the left leg and the left arm. Pop, like someone did it for you. Arm is long but not locked. Wrist is not engaged, so your fingers are pointing down towards the ceiling, the floor somehow. And now do it again, but this time as you lift your arm towards the ceiling, using your pelvis, think of what happens to the right side, the side that is long. So you pick up your arm, your leg, you stand your foot, and then reach towards the ceiling. Reach like without the interest on the movement so much, but on the support. So you keep your knee bent, you keep your arm long, continue doing the same thing. You're reaching towards the ceiling, reaching like a skeleton, reaching like a marionette being pulled. And see if by thinking of the leg that is long and the ribs that are in contact and the arm that is in contact makes it easier for you to reduce the effort and maintain the even flow of your breath. In other words, you are shifting your attention. The movement is the same. You continue reaching with the arm towards the ceiling, letting your pelvis tilt to the right as your leg is bent. The knee is toward the ceiling as well. So you're not taking the whole leg to the right, but just the pelvis. And returning. So several times as you breathe, but shifting the attention not so much on the movement of the arm, but on the support from the floor. On what is getting longer, what is getting more and more contact. What is your head doing? And leave it, rest again. Sense your contact for a moment. If you need to rest on your side, you can do that. If it's uncomfortable to be on your back for so long. And watch what's changing. What is the difference between the left and the right? What's taking place in your abdomen, in your jaw? How do you create a little more space between your teeth? How do you drop your jaw? Because you're not standing, so there's no reason to keep working so hard to hold it up. So now scoop yourself up again, the left leg and the left arm, and continue doing whatever you were just doing. Yeah, your attention on the breath first and foremost, uninterrupted, and then little movements of reaching up towards the ceiling like a skeleton with your arm, with the least muscular effort as possible. Engage in your pelvis, engage in the contact of the right side with the floor, but this time look to the left. Yeah, so you're letting the arm come straight up. The knee remains towards the ceiling. You're moving around your axis towards the right with the torso, with the pelvis, the ribs, but your head and eyes are suddenly interested in looking over the left shoulder. And yet you do all of this at the same time. And see what changes. There you go, at the same time. And then you place the pelvis down, the arm down, the head returns to the middle. What is the difference? If you have a little scoliosis, this probably feels very nice. If this is the shape of your spine, of the S shape of your spine. And now once or twice look to the right as you reach for the sky with the arm, letting the shoulder come away from the floor, the pelvis come away from the floor, and see what makes more sense for your organization. So, what makes it easier? What hinders your breath the least? And leave it and rest. Rest again, long. Or you can bend your knees over the chest if you're having the slightest discomfort on your lower back. Make yourself comfortable. And still don't go into your habitual stretching and tweaking, and just stay present to the new information your body is receiving. And if you feel a little different as you rest, if you feel like not quite you, that's your nervous system talking. That's the reorganization taking place. So don't shake it out too soon. Stay there. Observe that. So you create relief if you need to for your lower back, but try to stay present to what the information is being translated into, which is a new way maybe for your right leg to lie, or your right arm, or your left leg and your left arm, for your chest, for your breath. Now do the movement again without the leg, just to see how does it work. Yeah, do it without the leg. So just the arm up towards the ceiling, in the same way you just did the movement looking away from where you were going. So some of you, when you were opening the door, the imaginary door, were doing just this. Your legs were not part of it. So again, not to be corrective or to be judgmental, just make an observation. If you are to choose what works best, what's the easiest way, how can you take a deeper breath as you open this imaginary cabinet door? And do it again now once or twice with your leg up. And just compare the two at the level of your breath, if not anything else, at the level of your comfort, the ease. If you had to do this 10,000 times, like Sisyphus, you carry your rock, and when you get to the top, you start over again. So this is your task. You're going to lift your arm. Bring the arm away from you. Open this door forever. Would you do it with your leg, without your leg? And when you know the answer for yourself at the moment, you can rest. And if you're tired, you can rest too. And keep looking for the answer next time. But maintain the attention, the awareness on your breath. Lower abdomen breath, rising, falling. Observe the differences. You can move your head a little, left and right of the middle, and see if your shoulder blades, your shoulder girdle, your collarbone, your sternum are responding to the movement of the head in a different way. And again, observe your relationship to your breath. So do you have to forget about it because now you're looking at the head movement? Now leave the head quiet. Connect again to your current of oxygen in and out, and stay connected to it as you raise your right arm. So don't lose the breath. And make the tiniest movement you can up towards the ceiling, and then drop the arm. So you just drop it. So it's not a long and controlled movement. You drop the shoulder, keeping your arm long, keeping your wrist bent, so your arm is always long towards the ceiling, but you drop it. You drop the shoulder. Yep. So it's as if the puppeteer suddenly dropped the line. Yep. And do it a couple times, a little fast. Pop, 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 pop. Tiny. Don't drop the whole arm. The arm stays long. You're just dropping the shoulder. Yeah. So the arm stays long, not locked, and you're lifting it and dropping it a tiny bit at the shoulder, and then put it down and rest. Did you lose your attention at the breath because suddenly the direction was so different? It's a tricky thing, huh? Yet, breath is life. Not because it's automatic, we have to just forget about it. Because then it gets so shallow. So a couple times, lift the arm again and let it come away from the floor and drop it, but keep the attention on the breath and see that the quality may change. Tiny, be kind to yourself. The quality may change because you're not focused on the goal. There's no goal suddenly when you're just present to the breath. The movement of the arm is irrelevant. Leave it and rest again. And in your mind's eye, paint this line of the arm connected to the rest of you. So grab an imaginary paintbrush, dip it in any color that you want, and begin to paint the arm. Paint your right arm. And as you paint it, connect it to your right shoulder. So you find the lines of the bones of the right arm, and then the junction at the joint of the right shoulder, and paint it, connect it to the collarbone, the sternum, your shoulder blade, your ribs on the right side. Connect it to the left side, to the left collarbone and the left shoulder girdle, left arm, the left side of the ribs, the spine. And see what's missing on this image. Which area are you not so sure about? How big is it? How long is it? Is it the sternum that you don't know? What shape does it have? So paint it, imagine it, create it, as you're an artist of your own life, and you can make this up. Make it up, and you'll let the movement fill you in just a moment. But do the exercise of painting. And bend your right leg and lift your right arm, and not necessarily engage the pelvis yet, but just let the arm move inside this image that you just painted. Your right leg is there for support. Your right arm is up, bent at the wrist, bent at the elbow, but long toward the ceiling, and you just let it come away from the floor, long, and down. And see if you can keep the attention on the breath and move the arm away from the floor, inside this image that you just painted. So you're playing with your imagination, engaging with the left side of your ribs, the left side of your shoulders. And all the while you're just concerned that the breath is free. And see if at some point your right knee, your right hip joint, your right foot want to participate. You just listen. Listen to the invitation. Your awareness on the breath, your arm reaching to the ceiling and into the ribs, the sternum, the collarbones. Are you suddenly more aware of the side that is leaning into the floor? Because that's part of your image. Can you use the movement to create more clarity of what you didn't know how to paint in your mind? The back side of your ribs, the spine between the shoulder blades. And leave it rest whenever you want to. And you may find that on this side is faster for you to connect to the pathway of the breath, the arm, the pelvis. And you might be able to go deeper into what you're listening to. We were just talking about the grooves, the neural pathways that you create with this linking movement and awareness. So the groove is already created for you. You created it on the left side. So now the groove is already done. You can deepen the groove by thinking, maybe paying attention to, becoming aware of something else. Whatever your curiosity takes you, it's the best place to start. So now engage the pelvis in this movement. And you can rest your arm over your chest if the arm is injured or in pain. But otherwise you can lift it towards the ceiling. Keep it long, so don't bring it down into the floor again. Just keep it long, but not locked. Not locked at any joint, so the elbow's not locked, the wrist is not locked. Bring your right leg up and engage, first of all, with the breath, and second of all, with the pelvis. So as you reach up, as you lean into the ground on the left side, you let the pelvis cooperate, support, make it easier. So your right knee stays up to the ceiling, but the pelvis tilts to the left. Your belly is protruding, and you have enough space between the left arm and the side of your body that you don't feel that you have to stop. So at some point, if you wish to, you could be turning yourself to the left. Again, deepening this groove. That's right, move the hand so the pelvis doesn't feel the left hand and stops because you don't want to roll over yourself. Roll over the left side if you want to. You don't have to go that far. But provided your knee stays to the ceiling, so the leg and the pelvis are moving separately, and you're breathing. Maybe you breathe 4 times before you get all the way to the left side. You're reaching to the ceiling with the arm. You're looking to the left. Slowly. You return also very slowly. Maybe rest completely before you start again. Exploring how can you make it easier. And if the breath drives you, it'll be simple. If you're so set on reaching, on pushing, then not so easy. But if you're present to this in and out of the oxygen, your mind is so calm that your body will find the way. Leave it and rest whenever you want to. Just see how quickly did you get to the symmetry that you're experiencing maybe right now. In other words, if your left side felt a lot longer or softer after working on it for a long time, now just a couple repetitions with deeper awareness on the second side took you already to that place of symmetry. So one more time, connect to your breath. Make that your practice. Drop your abdomen. Rise your abdomen. And now think, again in your mind's eye, pay 1 or 2 minutes to attention to the image of this marionette. So you clarify the direction up towards the ceiling, as if there was a string tied up to the ceiling and tied up to your wrists, not to the left, not to the right, the arms, the knees, straight up. It's the rest of you that is moving around. It's your spine, your ribs, your pelvis, all the joints of your ribs and the sternum, but not the arms and not the knees. So clarify that image and then breathe in and breathe out, and when your attention, your awareness is glued to the breath, then bring the arms up again, both of them, and bring your knees up. That's it. And now you do one arm and then the other arm. Lift one arm and lift the other arm. And your elbows are soft, your wrists are soft, your attention on the breath, like an anchor. Soft and easy. So you lift one arm and then the other, you keep them both up all the time. So there's this puppeteer from up there pulling on one arm, pulling on the other. And you're looking at the right and looking at the left. And provided you keep attending to the breath, you can change something. You can change the direction of your head once, just to see what's easier. You can change how much do you want to take it to the right and to the left. So in other words, you make it very big. You make it tiny and fast. Pop, 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 pop. You can change how much effort you're using, reduce the effort, increase the effort. In other words, you begin to fine-tune this movement because you can at this point just become more and more interested in the quality, and yet is the breath what's most important. The current of the breath. And of course you do it until you're satisfied, rest whenever you want to. And one last time connect to your contact, to the floor, to the sense of the lines, to the sense of the spine, your spine. And see that you don't need to take a deep breath because you've been taking deep breaths all along. So deep breathing is the baseline. Now in this state that you are very present to yourself, serene, calm, find a way to slowly roll to one side or the other and gently come up to sit, to stand, without losing this connection to yourself. So you become aware of the state that you are, this new different you that you're embodying right now. Before you shake it, before you engage with others or with the space, just come up to your feet and experience yourself in this way. Know that this is possible for you to access. Plant your feet like roots into the ground and connect to the breath again. Let this be your melody. And then, whenever you want to, you can imagine you're reaching for this door again. Low door, shoulder high door. And just observe what comes. Don't expect, but listen. And see if there's something there, an invitation to observe your breath as you do it. So you're not really yanking the door, but moving toward the door, away from the door. And plug in with your intention whatever you can from this experiment of the class of the last hour. So maybe you're using your feet, maybe you're turning your ribs, your head, maybe your tonus has changed and the door is 1 pound. Yeah, and switch your arms, bring your attention to the breath, simplify the movement. Observe if it feels nicer. There's something safer about using your whole self. More comfortable. And then, like I like to say sometimes, use it or lose it. So use it as many times as you can, whatever you liked from today's class. Not only opening and closing doors, but in any situation that you feel curious to test it, and you'll see. You'll see what works for you. Have a beautiful day.